Okay, folks, it is interview time, and I am delighted to welcome on to episode one, of course, of the Pickle Show to a man I met at school. Okay, don't worry, we're not talking about school. We have plenty more to talk about. This man has gone through challenges in life that, you know what I mean? It's incredible that I'm here sitting talking to this man right now. Okay, he also just happens to be the captain of the Irish soccer transplant team as well. Just thought I may as well drop that in. It is, of course, Mr. John Brennan. John, thank you and welcome to the show.
Kieran, thanks very much for having me.
No,
I'm delighted to be on today, and it being your first show, it's a pleasure to be here talking to you today. All things organ donation, transplantation, and then obviously, as you say, we bit about the football as well. We'll throw it in there.
yeah, and look, I'll tell you what, we'll start off, we'll even go further back, right? We started off together in school, right? Now, unless my memory is wrong, right? Did you
Yeah,
walk in like fifth year to the tech?
no, I originally did the first 3 years.
Yeah.
Up to my junior cycle, and me being a wee bit older than yourself, I
Not
kind of
much now,
dropped out.
just a
I
wee bit.
kind of dropped out after the junior cert.
Yeah,
First time round.
yeah,
I tell you why. Um, Family life at home.
yeah,
My dad was a lone parent, a lot of kids in the house, needed a bit of a handout financially. So I just decided just to kind of drop out for a year, just to see could I get a job to help my dad
yeah,
with house stuff. So I did that, and then I decided I would try to go back to school the following September. Um, I suppose the second time around, used to money and everything else. I only lasted till Halloween in the second year, and I dropped out again.
yeah,
And that's when I met Claire, my wife at present, and future, and wife for life.
yeah.
Um,
And also one of the best footballers I ever played
Absolutely,
against or
yeah,
with,
yeah.
hands
Um,
down. Like,
Claire is not what I'm
wow.
still in. She's still playing football
Yeah,
nearly did. Now she's not. I'm not telling you her age, but she's still playing football.
fair play.
Playing with Balogan and that. So yeah, she's still at it. But she got me to go back the third time. So I decided, right, listen, third time lucky. I'll try to go back, give it another shot, because I always wanted to get me leaving cert, you know. And I knew I was capable of doing it. And yeah, it wasn't a matter of not being capable of doing it. I knew he was, just
Yeah.
family reasons dropped out. So I says, right, so listen, I'll go back, I'll give it another go. And then I arrived into your class. And I have to say, I couldn't have come across a nicer bunch of lads, a mixed bunch of lads from all parts of County Louth.
Oh man, we really will.
But I have to say, it was an unbelievable class, and it was a class that went through an awful lot of trauma in
Yeah,
6 years, as well, as you know. A few of us lost our parents that year, leading into our leaving cert. A few of us lost grandparents. So I think that even brought us closer together as a group. And you can still see it, like we're the best part of over 22 years out of the school.
yeah, it's
And
incredible.
we still talk to each other. We meet each other on the street. We text each other, and I have to say, I think come Christmas of fifth year, I was kind of saying, will I stay? Will I go?
Yeah,
And just by just making friends, and obviously Claire on me back as well.
yeah,
I made it through. I made it through. I made it through 6 year. And I got me leaving cert and did very well. And I'm glad I did.
yeah, yeah. And look, there's
But
one
it took me three.
challenge.
It took me three attempts.
Well, yeah, but it showed you that you don't stop. You know what I mean? You keep going, okay? And you never
Yeah,
give up. There's nothing ever too hard as you
yeah,
can't
yeah,
achieve.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's
So,
a couple of traits there. Yeah,
yeah,
resilience.
it
Oh,
really is like, hey, but
and
listen, I want to
Claire
get
seems
in.
to speak to me.
Yeah, I want to get into the big stuff, right? You had some
Yeah.
massive, massive stuff, right? That's obviously happening. That's another thing that we're going to talk about, obviously. Now, I wanted to do this properly, okay? So
Okay.
I scrolled for about 3 days on Facebook, right, to find something that I knew I saw before, liked before, and messaged Claire about before, right? Because I want
Yeah.
to make sure that this story gets across in the correct wording, okay? So I want to
Okay.
read this out, okay?
Okay. Right.
Right? I was born with a defective gene in my heart, the same condition that my mother passed away from when I was just 20. It was a big blow losing her. I was fitted with a defibrillator to monitor my heart, and I tried to get my life back together. One afternoon in work, I felt so weak that I had to go home early. 4 days later, I was on life support. All my organs were shutting down, and my heart was struggling to keep my body going. I'm not being funny with you. I'm choking on breathing this out right now, okay? Somehow, I pulled through. For the next 3 years, I was in and out of the matter. I was on life support twice and had 2 mini strokes. A heart transplant was my only chance of living. I was lucky enough to be matched with a heart that had the same rare blood type as me. I received the ultimate gift of life. Being sick can be a mental battle, but I'm so grateful for everything. I realize all the good things I have in life. There were your words, John.
Yeah.
So well.
Just even by just listening to that, it brings me back, you know. I'm always the kind of guy that kind of looks forward.
Yeah.
And try not to look too much over my shoulder. Because when I look back like that, I can get very emotional as well and very caught up. When I realize what I've gone through.
Yeah.
You know, it started very early in life. I was diagnosed with the heart condition when I was 12 years old. And there's 9 kids in my family, and 4 of us have the condition. 2 of my sisters and my brother Trevor, who unfortunately passed away 2 years ago there last February with the obviously same heart condition. And even that shows you, you know, how lucky I have been in a sense. Yes, I've been so unlucky to have this heart condition, and to live with all the ailments that came with it over the 20 years. And as you say, in and out of hospital so many times. I had 2 many strokes, as you said, life support twice. So yeah, I've been physically put through the ringer, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here to tell the tale. I'm still here, able to enjoy life with my kids and my wife. And then on the other side, my brother, unfortunately, you know, he's only 33, Kieran, when he passed away with the heart condition. And like that, he 2 young kids as well. Was getting ready to get married that June of the year that he passed, and just a heart condition just got on top of him. Went into hospital, and basically his organs shut down, and he passed away.
Yeah.
You know, so
I know it should never take something like that to make you realize exactly how lucky you are in a situation, but because it's so close, you can't help but literally be like, I was the complete opposite. Like, I was lucky.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, you know, if I was to give any advice to anyone going through a long-term illness, the big thing for me is acceptance. You know, it took me a long time, especially in the early years when I was 18, 19, 20, and around the time my mother passed. You know, I was brought into the hospital, and they did further tests on me when I was about 20 years old. And they said, listen, you have, you know, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is the name of the heart condition. And basically what that means is my heart never stopped growing. So as I got older, my heart got thicker. And I was told I also had a condition called SADS, sudden adult death syndrome, which basically means that at any stage I could have been walking down the street, talking to my friend, talking to Claire, going for a cycle, didn't matter what I was doing, and all of a sudden I could just drop. And having that in my head, living with that in my head from an early age, it really did affect me mentally, psychologically, emotionally. I was a mess for a long time. I have to say, the people around me, my family, you know, my dad, my brothers, my sisters, Claire, obviously, friends, schoolmates, you know, got me through it, Kieran, you know, to a stage where I was able to accept my heart condition for what it was, and then start to build my life again. You know?
But it's all about support system in anything, like at anything. There has to be a support system, like
it has to be, especially when you're dealing with something that's long term.
Yeah.
You know, when you know that it's a part of your life, and I knew transplantation was going to come down the line. I knew an organ transplant was probably going to be the only thing that would save me. I didn't think it would come so quick, even though, you know, I was 37 when I got the transplant, but I thought I would have got a bit longer out of it. But just, you know, life just throws things at us, you know, and it's how we deal with those things and how we accept them. And you know, one thing with me is I still am a very positive person. I try to be as much as I can, and I always try to just not go with the flow, but try to work things out. Come up with a plan and kind of just go for it, you know. And I knew I always knew in my heart and soul that when the time came for the transplant, that I'd be all right. I never had any kind of negative thoughts towards it,
Brilliant.
that listen,
Yeah.
I might die here.
Easy to have that. Easy to go down
Yeah.
a different road with that.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. And even like, when I was in hospital, I went into the Mater in 2018. I was that bad, my heart was working at 8%. So basically my heart couldn't do what it had to do for my body. So I had to go into the hospital. I think it was around May of 2018, and put on a special heart pump to do the work for my heart, because I physically couldn't pump the blood around my body. My own heart couldn't pump the blood around my body.
Because the
So I
heart was
needed a
growing.
machine.
Yeah, because it was
Yeah,
growing.
I needed a machine to do it for me, which meant I was restricted to a hospital bed. I was restricted to a ward. I didn't leave the hospital for 5 months. And even something like that, pushes you right to the edge of sanity, really, and I seen people coming in, a bit like myself, waiting on a transplant, and unfortunately being sent home to die because they became too weak, or the heart didn't come up when it should have come up. So as much of the negative side and the hardship and the trauma that I went through, I really do have to grasp the positive side of it as well,
Yeah.
I have to say, I really am a lucky guy just to get it, and to recover like I did, and to get over it.
Yeah, I know.
And just be here, even sitting here talking to you, like.
That's what I mean. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, we're not sitting in school. As you said, it's 22 years since me and you shared a classroom together.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to rehash all the old posts up, right? But I have to just say this one, right? Because this was beautiful. Because this is incredible, right? Because I think to be able to say this stuff is just it's memories that will never be forgotten about, right? I'd been in the Mater for months, waiting and hoping to get a heart transplant. I'd requested a day to go home and see my family, and they allowed me to leave for a few hours. When the kids came in from school and saw me, the wee look on their faces was priceless. It was an emotional moment. Within 5 minutes of returning to the Mater that evening, I was told there was a match for my heart. The last thing I had said to my wife before going in for the surgery that night was that I'd wake up the next day and wish her a happy birthday. And I did. It was an amazing moment. John, like, seriously, like, I know, do we have to take a break now so that I can go get a tissue or something? Like, because seriously, Claire would be laughing at me when she hears this, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, even looking back on that day, that was a day in September 2018, and a lot of people remember this day. It was the day we had a real bad storm, and basically the country was shut down, and we weren't really. People were sent home from work. We were told not to drive on the roads. We were told to stay in our houses. And that was the day that the doctor said to me. Actually, that was a Wednesday, Kieran.
Yeah.
On the Monday, the doctor came in to me, and I was lying in my bed just after fighting another infection. And the doctor said,
You're all right. You're all right. Like,
things aren't looking good.
Yeah.
And you need a transplant to come in the next week or two, or you're not gonna survive, John. So we want you to bring your kids in and spend a bit of time with your family and get your affairs in order. So I said, well, listen, if I'm doing that, I don't want to bring my kids into this environment.
Yeah.
If it's going to be probably the last time I see my kids, I want to do it at home. So they didn't really know what to say to me now, because I was hooked up to all these machines, and the logistics of even doing that was a nightmare for them. And looking back, I don't know how they did it, but they did. So they said, listen, if this is one of your wishes, we will try our best. And in fairness to them, they got me ready. And on the Wednesday morning, Claire came up and picked me up in the Mater, and 3 or 4 machines all attached to me. We got them all into the car.
Wow.
And we went home to Talonstown. And I said to Claire, don't tell the kids. I'll sit in the sitting room. And when you bring them home from school, tell them that the trampoline, because of the wind, was blown out into the field behind the house, and they'll come running out to look for it, So we did that. And then they came busting through the sitting room door, and they seen me, and listen, it was a very emotional moment, because I didn't know whether I'd see my kids after that again, So we had a normal family afternoon. We sat at the kitchen table. We did the homework with the kids. Claire cooked a bit of dinner, and obviously me being so sick, I wasn't able to do what a normal father would do, which is go out and kick a bit of football with his son. So we played a game of Monopoly at the kitchen table for an hour, and it was just great to get that time with the kids. Now, we didn't go too much into how bad things were with me. I just wanted to live in the moment and enjoy the moment for what
family
it was.
time, like
yeah, absolutely. And these are the moments that we really do need to cherish more, because it's the small moments in life that mean the most. So anyhow, my brother came in then, and he was dropping me back up to the Mater, and we were driving down Eccles Street, and this feeling come through my body. And I turned to my brother as he was parking the car. He says, "Terry," I says, "I think a heart's coming." I says, "I don't know if it's tonight, but I have a feeling in my body that I'm going to get a transplant."
Brilliant.
He dropped me off, and I went upstairs, and Man United were playing on the TV when they were a half decent team at the time. And I said to the nurse, I says, "I'm just going in to watch the match." And she says, "Yeah, walk away, go on in, yeah." And she said, "Where's your wife?" And I says, "Well, she's at home. My brother dropped me up." And they said, "Well, where's your brother?" And I said, "Well, he's on his way home. He's got work in the morning." So I knew something was going on. So then, literally like that, 5 minutes later, the heart transplant coordinator came in and says, "John," and just, she didn't even have to say it. I turned around to her and I says, "There's a heart." And she says, "Yeah, would you believe you're the only person in the whole of Ireland on the transplant list tonight?"
My God.
If this is a a good heart, the only person that can get this heart is you, because your blood type matches, your antibodies matches, and every other check matches. She says, "I don't know how it has worked out like this, but this heart is for you."
It's meant to be, as simple as that. You know what I mean? Like you said, you had that feeling.
Absolutely. Like, it's amazing. Like, and then just like that, Kieran, you're getting all your prep done. You're getting ready for surgery. Your head's up. Your head's all over the place. You don't know what's happening. I'm ringing Claire. Claire's coming up with the kids, to say goodbye before I go in. And yeah, you're right. The last thing, just as we were going down this corridor, I held on to Claire's hand.
Brilliant.
And,
you're fucking brilliant. I mean it. You are incredible.
So, that's what I said to her. I said, "Listen, I'm getting a heart transplant, and you know what? It's your birthday tomorrow, and I'm going to wake up and wish you a happy birthday."
Yeah, that's some present.
Yeah.
You're good now. Like, you're good. See, when it comes to future presents, you're good. Like, I think that's probably given you a certain amount of years where you'd be like, "Oh, I forgot to wait, I'll remind her." But that'll cover this year, so it will. Like, you know what I mean? But look, we talked just before we came on about, obviously, after, like, it's not just a case of you get a heart, you go home and you go back to normal life. We were talking about how there's a mental side, there's a physical side. You know what I mean? Like that's obviously that's crucial to the whole thing, because you have to be able to adapt yourself to something as humongous as this. Like,
like, I have to say, the recovery of a transplant, and anyone that has a transplant will tell you, especially a heart transplant, you're cut from basically your sternum, which is the top of your chest bone, right down to your belly button, and that whole bone has to be sawed open and then cranked open to get to your heart. So when you get that transplant, obviously that is all stapled back together. But the physical pain of that, for about 6 weeks after it, I have to say, the pain is unreal. You can imagine if you're coughing or sneezing and you have a chest bone that's broke. It was a very, very tough 6 weeks physically, but I got over that. And I found that easier to get over than the actual psychological side of it. I have to say, the first 6 months was really, really tough for me, because you have that sense of guilt, number one, that someone had to pass, someone had to die for me to survive. And then you also have a feeling that this heart that's beating inside my body isn't mine.
Yeah.
This is somebody else's heart. And for the first 6 months, I have to say it was very, very hard psychologically to get my head around the whole situation. It was actually easier to recover physically than it was emotionally and mentally. But bit by bit, step by step, day by day, week by week, you just get your stuff together. You accept things for what they are, and you just take each day as it comes, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, the more days that pass, the days become easier, and then you take week by week. And the more weeks that pass, the weeks become easier. And then all of a sudden, you're 6 months post transplant. You're getting all this great news that your heart is doing really, really well. Your confidence builds up. Your self esteem is growing, and then you can see life coming back into your life. You know, you're able to do the small things. 6 months down the road after transplantation, I was able to go out and kick football in the green with Sean.
Brilliant.
You know,
Yeah. And
so when you can do these kind of things, whereas 6 months ago I was dying, you
yeah.
know, it really does show you that the positivity of organ donation and transplantation, and really how it changes lives. It
Do you
really does.
do you think there's I only did this earlier on today, right? I stuck up a very quick poll on our Instagram page, and it was simply just asking people, would you donate your organs? Okay, and like 88% of people were like yes. But then I asked, do you have a donor card? And
Yeah,
this is the thing, only 60% of people said yes. Now, I can proudly say I do have a donor card. My wife has always had a donor card, and she was like,
yeah.
get this. And I was like, just tell me how to. Like, you know what I mean? Because again, it wasn't something I ever kind of thought about. You know what I mean? You mean,
Yeah.
unless you're kind of necessarily impacted by something, you don't always necessarily think
No,
about
absolutely. Yeah,
that topic.
yeah.
But like, do you think there is any kind of a stigma? And maybe stigma is not the right word, you know what I mean? But do you think there's any kind of or people a fear or something like that of wanting to be a donor or something? I don't really know what I'm trying to ask you, but if you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
is there like an element of people like who just are like, no, like, no, I'm not like,
Yeah, I think in the you know, in the younger generation, you know, especially people in their 20s, 30s,
yeah,
they don't see illness. They don't see, unless it's kind of staring them straight in the face. So
yeah,
they're not going to be thinking about, if I die, what's going to happen, you
yeah,
know. They're only starting off in life. They have to be affected by something like what I went through to realize that life is precious and life can be taken away from us at any second. Um, and you know, I just think this whole thing around organ donation and our current system, which is opt-in, and thank God it's changing.
yeah.
And
I,
hopefully it'll be in by the end of the year. The government have brought in legislation, this new Tissue Bill Act, and I'd say hopefully by the end of the year, every person in Ireland will be a donor,
Yeah, because you have to opt out. Yeah,
yeah,
because I was looking this up, and I know you did an article in the Mirror back in January 2019, how you had brought this up, and at the time, I can't remember which. I'm not going to name politicians because they've been
yeah,
changing that quickly, right? But one of them back in January 2019, it was finally being brought to the cabinet to consider the opt-out law, and that was in
yeah,
2019. And then, and look, I've done it for years as we have such a fantastic government. In November 2022, the headline is the system is to finally go in front of the cabinet at the end of the month. So nearly 4 years later, it went from it's going to the cabinet to
yeah,
it's going to the cabinet. So is there a belief and a hope that this
yeah,
might actually, please God,
yeah,
come into play?
yeah. Well, the bill has gone through the cabinet. It's gone to
Yeah,
the Oireachtas. Once it goes through the Oireachtas, it'll be brought into law.
into law.
I
Yeah,
think, I think, I think, I think the whole delay, obviously, was this pandemic that we had for three
yeah,
years, you know, COVID-19. But Simon Harris at the time, who was the Minister of Health, now I wrote to him and got a reply, and we were lobbying him for a long time to kind of really push this, you know, because as a transplant patient and all the benefits that I have got out of organ donation, um, to me it was a no-brainer, like, you know.
yeah.
Unfortunately, if we pass, um, you know, our organs could really sustain life, you know.
And
Like, what better gift could you give leaving this world, knowing that your organs have been taken and put into someone else who has had a terminal illness and was dying,
yeah,
and only for you, you know. My organ donor saved 5 lives the night that I got mine, you know. When I was coming out of the operating room, there was a young guy. He was 35 at the time, and like that, a bit like myself, he had 2 young kids as well. When I was coming out, he was going in to get the lungs of the same person.
Wow.
You
Like,
know,
from that person's family side,
yeah.
like, there can only be so, like, do they get told that? If you don't, or how does that
Yeah,
work, John? Like,
well, they get told where their child's organs have
yeah,
gone to, not the person.
no, but would
So,
they know that, like, for example, 5 people just
oh
like,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
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 yeah.
like,
They'll be told that your child's 5 organs, and they'll list the organs,
yeah,
have gone and have been successfully transplanted, and the
brilliant.
people are doing well. And then you're allowed to write to your donor family a
Oh,
year
brilliant.
after. Yeah,
Right.
so a year after I got my heart transplant, um, the transplant nurse in the matter contacted me and said, "Listen, you're a year over your transplant. Are you at a stage where you would like to write a letter to the donor family?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'd love to." Now you can't write any personal stuff, your
Yeah,
name, where
yeah,
you're from, anything that would give them details about myself. You can't do that. And so I wrote the letter. You send a letter to the transplant unit in the matter. They read the letter
yeah, just to check that.
just to
Yeah,
make sure everything
yeah,
was okay, and then they send a letter on to the family, and then it's up to the family then of the donor whether they want to write back to you. And I have to say, thank God, since 2018, we write to each other at Christmas time
brilliant,
and
brilliant.
on the anniversary of the transplant. So and I have to say, getting letters from the mother and father of the donor who saved my life, some of the stuff in it just, it's so uplifting. Um, and when you hear that at their darkest moment, they got comfort knowing that
Yeah,
their son or daughter was able to live on in 5 people.
like,
You
that's
know,
incredible. Like that, like
it's
that,
unbelievable.
like,
And I have to say that gave me so much comfort, and it actually helped me with the guilt that I had around taking this person's heart. It was very, for me, it kind of healed me,
yeah, yeah.
and just getting those letters. And yeah, it was an amazing process that I went through. Now, not everyone will get letters from the donor families. People deal with things in different ways.
Of course, yeah.
And I was just lucky that the family were willing to write back to me, and
Brilliant.
still writing back to me,
Yeah, and like, that's the thing. Like, this wasn't just a one-time letter thing. Like, that
No,
shows
no,
that it shows what incredible people they are as
yeah,
well.
I
Like,
know, absolutely, yeah.
so it does. It really does. And look, I know then obviously there was things as well mentioned that you did, and was there? I can't remember what the title of it is, but there was walks in that you took part in. It was in relation to the donor. Was that the right way of putting it?
Yeah,
That it
yeah.
was.
I was approached by a guy, Frank Reilly, and he organizes the annual Remembrance Run in Phoenix Park, and it's a 5K run that's done every October, November in Phoenix Park, and it's basically, um, for family members, friends, whatever, of people who have passed to do a run in their honor, and he heard of my story, and how close I was to dying, and how my life was changed so much through transplantation and organ donation, that he wanted for me to get involved with this. So I was only, and this is another kind of side story. This is, I grew very fond of one of the doctors in the matter, and his name, he won't mind me mentioning his name. His name was Alistair, and he was a cardiologist, and he'd be in me every day, and we'd have the crack, and he seen me at my lowest, and he seen me at my good times as well. And on the night that I got my transplant, he was finished his shift, and he lives in Belfast. He went home to his wife and kids, and he was only in the door 15 minutes, and he got a call from the hospital to say that we got a heart for John. Is there any chance you can come back down to Dublin? And he was only in the door
Yeah,
after a 12-hour shift, and he said he didn't even have to think twice.
yeah,
So he kissed his kids. He kissed his kids goodnight. Got back into his car, drove back to Dublin, jumped on the army helicopter in Phoenix Park, went straight to a hospital down the country,
Wow.
picked up the heart, and on the way back into Phoenix Park, he decided to record a video.
Whoa.
So a video was sent to me about a week after the transplant, and basically it's a video of the army helicopter coming into Phoenix Park, arriving at the Papal Cross at Phoenix Park, and there's two squad cars with flashing lights, and as the helicopter lands, you can see there's 5 or 6 people grabbing 2 boxes. One box was the heart, and one box was the lungs that the guy got after I came out. And he showed me this video about a week later, and less than 9 months after that, I was running a 5K, and I ran past the Papal Cross.
My God.
In Phoenix Park. So life can life can throw things at us, both on a negative side but also on a positive side. And little did I know that the heart that was delivered to the Phoenix Park at the Papal Cross, 9 months later, I'd be running past with the same heart in my body.
Anything can happen.
That's where the whole remembrance run comes.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it every year since. I think there's been 2 years where I've been sick with different infections and that's it. Like after transplant, you're going to pick up certain little infections because of the medication you're on. But if I'm fit and healthy, I always will do the remembrance run in November.
It's a great idea. Yeah, it's a fantastic thing. So it is. Like I was seeing different posts about it when I was looking it up and that. Like, and I just thought, wow, that is just. Well, look, we went to school, and I knew that you were. I'm a football manager, 17 years, right? So I'd say I used to always think that you were like the number 6. You just sit in front of the back 4, little Tom Huddleston role, just pinging the ball about, right? That's where my
wasn't fit for anything else.
Yeah, that's what my football brain had put you. Well, look at you're always fond of the football. Come on, we all know that, right? But
I love soccer. Love soccer.
And you just happen to be playing a little bit of soccer again, just a little bit.
It's amazing. Like even just to say I'm playing after 20 years. Like when I was 20, after my mum passed, I got the defib put in, and I was told that I had obviously the heart condition, but I also had this other thing called sudden adult death syndrome. When I was told all that, I was brought into the hospital, and I was given all this bad news at 20 years of age. And the doctor said to me, "Are you sporty?" And I says, "Yeah, I'm into me soccer." Like, and he says, "Well, are you any good at it?" And I says, I'd like to think I'm half decent. I played with the school, obviously, and then at the time I was playing with Glen Muir, and he says, "Listen, I don't want to burst your bubble," he says, "but you're going to have to give everything up," just like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to say. I was didn't know what to say for about 10, 15 seconds, and I says, "Do you mean like give it up?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "You're at you could be on the football pitch, and your heart is so bad that you could just drop." And I says, "Right,
Jesus
okay."
Christ.
So I had to, I just had to give it up. I knew that I had to give it up. Now, I struggled on for about 6 months because I was a bit stubborn at the time. And when you're younger, you think you're nearly bulletproof,
Yeah.
So I kept going, and I got a bit of a scare one time playing Gaelic with Piercy. And I said after that, I says, "Right, listen, you're obviously doing something you shouldn't be doing." So I give it up. Fast forward 17 years, and I get my heart transplant, and I'm a year over it, and I'm 38 years of age, thinking my footballing days are well behind me. I haven't kicked the ball in 18 years, and I get a phone call from a guy down the country who started the whole process of setting up the Irish soccer transplant team. And he says, "I see your story online. I've seen you in newspapers. Would you be interested in coming in and giving it a go?" And I says, "Absolutely, I'd love it." So one January in 2020, I put my boots in the car and went to Alsa Dublin Airport, and that's where we would train, And I got into the room, and I was talking to all like-minded people. Guys there had double lung transplants, kidney transplants, liver transplants, heart transplants. Like, even just to stand in that room and even talk to them, let alone go out and play football with them, was such an uplifting experience. I have to say, I felt 10 foot tall leaving the dressing room. And I remember putting on my boots and I was running out to the Astro pitch and I started crying. I was like, oh my God, I says, like, for 20 years, I thought my footballing days are over.
Yeah.
And here I am, 18 years later, with a new heart, and I'm going out to run around a football pitch and kick ball. So I cried on the way out to the pitch. And one of the guys who had a heart transplant come over, and he seen me a bit emotional, and he put his arm around me and he says, it's a great feeling, isn't it? And I says, you couldn't write this. I says, you know, if I could bottle this feeling, I says, you'd be a millionaire.
Oh, like to go that long, like as you said, you got told by a doctor you're done. Football, football, you're done, and then obviously to be told by an actual doctor then that you might be done in life, and to then now be talking about running 5Ks, going past the paper cross, to playing football again, being the captain. You're the captain as well.
Yeah, and that was an emotional experience as well. You know, I think it's probably 4 weeks ago now, we went to Birmingham to play in our very first international transplant tournament. And we played against Wales and a couple of other representative teams from around the UK, Nottingham, Oxford, Birmingham. So there was 5 teams, and we all gave out our jerseys to each other, and we were having a huddle. And then 2 lads stood up and they made a speech, and they just said that this guy is a leader on the field and off the field, and his story is amazing, just like all of our own. But he's a leader of men, and we want him to be the captain of this team and lead us into battle. And I was waiting for someone else to be mentioned. I was just tying up my boots and all this, and I heard my name, and I says, "Are you sure?" And they all said, "Listen, we couldn't pick anyone better to lead us out than you." So I
can't disagree with that.
I tried to say a few words, Pecco, but you're like that. I was so caught up in the whole emotion side of it, I couldn't even get 2 words out. But they knew how I felt. I know we went out and we topped the group. We played 4 games. We won 2, we drew 2, and we topped the group. We got straight into the final against a team called Nottingham, who won it the last 3 years in a row. And we just ran out of gas in the final, and we lost 2-0. But it wasn't so much about the football. It was the memories, and
creating memories you never thought you'd get to do again. Like that. That's what it is. Like it's like a new feeling. That's an old feeling. So it is.
Like I thought I'd never experienced that feeling. That adrenaline going through your body in the middle of a game. I thought those days were behind me, and obviously through organ donation and transplantation, I'm creating those memories again, all over. Like coming into my 40s. So. For anyone out there who thinks things are beyond you, and you don't see light at the end of the tunnel, and you think that life mightn't change for the positive, stay at it, keep fighting, keep the head up, keep moving forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other every day. Do your damn best.
Beautifully
put. Life can be good.
Beautifully put, man. And then a big shout as well. Obviously, Sonus bathrooms are now the backers for the team, so they are. So fair play and a big shout out to those guys.
It's been amazing. They've come on board. When a lot of companies weren't, a lot of organizations, I'll not mention any, but they heard the story of us. They seen the connection that organ donation is doing around the country, and all the positivity that we're trying to spread, and they want to be part of that. It's amazing, like the support we're getting from them, both financially and even just support of picking up the phone and asking how we're getting on a training. They're so into it. Like it's not just about the financial side of it. That they're putting up posts on their Twitter accounts, their social media. They've taken organ donor cards. They're spreading them around all their centres around Ireland. So they're really looking at pushing out that message as well. And that's what we want to do.
It's all positive. Like there's nothing negative about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's all positive.
No,
You know what I mean? There's nothing that
Yeah.
anybody can do that's negative about this. This interview is positive. This being put up on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Spotify and everywhere else, it's positive. You know what I mean? Like, that's all this is. And it's to help people.
Yeah. And whether it's a physical illness or whether it's mental health or whatever, you know, you just, it's a simple message, you know. You just have to get up every morning and do your best, you know.
One day at a time.
You know, one day at a time. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days, and I still have my bad days, both physically and that. And when you have those days, you have to be kind to yourself and kind to your body, and just don't push yourself that day, and take it easy. Watch a Netflix box set, whatever, you know. And then when you have your good days and you've got your energy levels and that, go out and enjoy life, you know.
Make the most. Like, you know, I said, funny, make the most of the days that you know I'm good today. And it's the same, like you said, whether it's now, I in the past had talked about my own mental health of not having any and all that kind of stuff. And it's literally just about you knowing. I had a thing that I think I read it out on the Doc FM and they didn't bother airing it. I wrote a thing out called Keep Your Light Switch On or something like that. It was like a poem thing that I wrote out one day in about 5 minutes, came into my head and I read it out and I put it up on Instagram, put it up on Facebook, and the response to it was insane. It was that insane. I wanted to set up like a coffee morning for all the people, because there was people sending messages going, I've been there and I've gone through this. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's the same with this. You guys come together now on the field, off the field. You know what I mean? Like, the relationship you have with those guys now is like we spoke about the guys that you went to school with. In 20 years, you guys will be texting about that tournament that was on. You'll be talking about the next tournament that's on. It's just creating incredible memories that at one point looked impossible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is. And
that's it. You know, it's about making those memories, those friendships that will last a lifetime. And I know it will, because we've become very close as a group, you know. And we're on Zoom every week now. We have our meetings every week. We're getting ready for the British Transplant Games in July.
Come on.
The big one for us is, we're gearing up for the British Transplant Games in July. But the big one is the World Cup. The very first Soccer Transplant World Cup is on in August of next year in Italy. And that's going to be an international tournament where Australia, America, you know, Brazil, teams from all over are going to be the very first World Cup. And everything is geared towards getting ready for that. Like, even just to talk about a World Cup, you know,
come on, like, seriously, like, we're talking about different goals.
It's a dream. It's a dream that I always had as a young lad, you know. Like, listen, I was never good enough to play for Ireland, but you always had that dream as a young lad, especially anyone that loves soccer. You'll always dream about playing for your country. And when I got that message, you know, when I was 18, 19, 20, listen, your footballing days are over, I thought I'd never get that. I never thought that dream would come true. And here you are, 18 years later, and I'm the captain of the Irish transplant team. You know, so you can have your dreams and keep dreaming, because someday they could come true. You know,
John, that's a brilliant way of putting it, man. And look, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I didn't aim to make you emotional. I wasn't trying to bring back. It's just I had to read out those things because they were your words from one of the most toughest experience, dramas, life challenges that anybody is ever going to go through. And look, you're sitting there now again. You're the captain of our country. That's the only way I'm putting it. You're the captain of our country. That's it. I don't mind what it is. You're the captain of Ireland. Simple as that. Seamus Coleman, he's coming for you. So he is. But listen,
I think he's safe enough.
Yeah, well, he's only got a couple of years left, so you never know. Like, so you don't. But listen, John, thank you so much for coming on. I really, honest to God, hand on heart, appreciate it. I love and respect you so much that it's not even funny. If I could hug you,
it's been a pleasure. And listen, I hope the show goes really well in the coming weeks.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you soon, and thank you so much. Tell the kids, tell Claire I said hello, and thank you so much.
Yeah, same to you. Same to you. Thanks, Karen. Take care, pal.
Bye.